In our previous lesson, we discussed the evolution of the computer ending about early 1970s with the invention of the most significant piece of electronics probably in history, that of the microprocessor, by Intel Corporation under the leadership of Mr. Robert Noyce. We pointed out that Popular Mechanics magazine offered to make a cover story from the invention of any computer that actually used one of these microprocessors. And a gentleman named Ed Roberts took that challenge and built the world's first microcomputer, the Altair 8800. That became a raging success, and Mr. Roberts, in fact, started his own company, MITS, and that's what he did. He manufactured these kits to sell the Altair 8800. In this lecture, we're going to continue our survey of the achievements that have taken place in the last few years pertaining to microcomputers, and we will start with a picture of Mr. Ed Roberts. There he is right there. There's the man that built the first microcomputer, and he started that company and hired Bill Gates and Microsoft to create a basic programming language for his new computer. There's a story that when Mr. Roberts sold his company, Microsoft claimed that he did not actually own the basic programming language, that it was actually theirs. And the story goes that Mr. Roberts didn't necessarily agree with that. This marked a very exciting time in the evolution of computers. We saw hobbyists all over the world jumping on board with creating their own products with this great new microprocessor. They formed clubs, one of the most famous of which is this homebrew club in Northern California, where hobbyists from all over the place would bring their products to the show to show everybody what they would be doing. As a matter of fact, a couple of guys are right here, Steve Jobs on the left and Stephen Wozniak on the right. There's another picture of Stephen. And these two guys founded their own computer company, the Apple Computer Company, with the assistance of this gentleman, Mr. Mike Markkula, who had more experience in business than they did, and he guided them in the development of their new company. When Apple went public, it marked one of the most significant times in that there were instantly more millionaires created as a result of the going public of Apple Computer. Of course, Apple Computer is still around. It's very successful. Their business has evolved. They still manufacture computers, small computers for special niche type applications, generally speaking, and web browsing, but they've moved on to many other types of electronic products, such as the iPhone, the iPod for music, videos, and iPad. And their business has expanded so much that they've even changed their name to take the word computer out of it, and now it's App because they are so much more than a computer company. There's a picture of the Apple computer. And there's a picture of another leader at that time. We're talking the late 70s, the TRS-80 from Radio Shack. This computer had its own operating system. It was called Tristos. And Apple had its own operating system called Apple-DOS. And they were selling like gangbusters. In fact, you could install on both of these machines a third operating system called CP/M, which was considered to be a generic business-oriented operating system. Their success did not go unnoticed. And finally, IBM realized that there was actually a market for these machines, and about 1980 or 81 introduced the IBM PC. And the IBM PC set the standard in the world of microcomputers. That architecture is still the basis of most microcomputers today, PCs. And it was extremely well received and extremely successful product. IBM eventually sold out their microcomputer manufacturing to Lenovo, a Chinese company, and so they really no longer make microcomputers, but But during the period that they were involved with it, they were extremely successful. Other players of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, Bill Gates, everybody should be familiar with, the owner of Microsoft Corporation, or chairman of Microsoft Corporation, extremely successful, and is now a internationally known philanthropist. And this is Mitch Kapor right below him. Mitch Kapor owned Lotus Corporation, which manufactured one of the world's most successful spreadsheet applications, Lotus 123. This fellow right over here, many of our students will see in one of the videos on the machine that changed the world, as he is discussing with a group of Microsoft staff the state of a current project at Microsoft. Mr. Peters worked for Microsoft, and he is saying in this particular scene that they were down to so few bugs in the product that it was almost insignificant. Chris Peters is sort of an interesting story because apparently he thought he would like to be a professional bowler, and perhaps he wasn't quite up to that standard, so he bought the Professional Bowlers Association, which goes to show that a lot of millionaires and very successful people came out of this early era of the microcomputer. Many millionaires were made by Apple Computer and Microsoft during the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. It's impossible to say at this point all the things that can be done with computers. It is so far beyond the imagination of men like Charles Babbage, maybe even Alan Turing, who we talked about was the first man that thought computers could do something besides crunch numbers. But they can be used for anything that the human imagination can come up with. You see a little graphic here of a graphic application that's taking place, and that human beings are able to take this technology and explore areas and possibilities never before possible. So what does the future hold? Well, we really don't have a clue. I'm sure I can safely say to you that the appearance of the computer is going to be significantly different than it is today. In fact, we shouldn't be terribly surprised if at some point in the future you won't even be able to see the computer, but it will be around you in some way. That concludes a study of the evolution of the computer from about 1860 till the current 2000s. There's a much more story to be told. We will continue with some other videos that delve into some of the really special kinds of applications, such as artificial intelligence and so forth, that the computer technology is allowing us to progress. But for today, let's call it a day.